Welcome to another episode of Drop the Tailgate. I'm Barry Cross, Region 2 Communications and Outreach Coordinator. And today I'm here with Stephen Day and Jordan Nanney. And Stephen, this is a unique situation where I've got fisheries and wildlife working together. Tell me a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah, so we're at Flintville Wildlife Management Area, or Flintville Trout Hatchery. Primarily Flintville Hatchery, but we're set on 750 acre wildlife management area. And being on site all the time, operating the hatchery, I get to interact with hunters that are actively hunting Flintville WMA, primarily bow hunting for white-tailed deer. And I noticed a trend of, let's say, I didn't see much today. Didn't see many deer, and I got to thinking, it intrigued me to see what we could do to simply improve the wildlife management area. So I reached out to Wildlife Division, because they're kind of over the WMAs, and just come up with a simple plan. My main goal was to provide a thicket or bedding cover for white-tailed deer, turkey primarily. And so we devised a plan to do some select cuts.
Okay, and Flintville is a unique WMA. It's not a very large WMA. It's 750 acres. Is that right?
That's right.
But Jordan comes into this because basically what we see here is what Flintville has, isn't it?
Open hardwoods.
Open hardwoods and mature hardwoods too. How does your role play into this?
Well, after I was contacted by Stephen and other folks in the Wildlife Division that had spoken to Stephen about this particular project, I came down, viewed the property, and I also realized it's almost completely dominated by closed canopy upland hardwoods and cove hardwoods. Depending on the topography, the aspect, and the slope of the area, you either have a dry ridge top like we're on right now, or you get off on the sides of some of the hills, you get more cove. But regardless, it was just all big trees and no understory, so very little cover for the deer. And he kind of told me that, yeah, we just need more security cover, more bedding cover, thicket areas to hold the deer, especially during hunting season, to increase hunter opportunity and success. So from there, we kind of took a 20,000 foot view, looked at the entire WMA as a whole, and we decided to do some small patch clear cuts ranging from 5 to 10 acres in size.
And you decided to move those openings around is that going to make hunting better? What was the plan in that?
That's right. So with it being a fairly small WMA, we didn't have to cut much timber to create a little bit of cover to hold deer here. What I did is I looked at a topographic map, and I identified points and ridge tops where deer traditionally would bed in open hardwoods if they didn't have any hunting pressure. Also combine that with the available access to enable the loggers to get in here without us having to create a lot of new infrastructure. And with that decision of placing cuts where deer naturally would want to bed, and distributing them in a way that would facilitate hunting opportunities between bedding cover and food, and placing the cuts close enough together that, say, during the rut, when bucks are out cruising for does, they can bounce from thicket to thicket, scent checking those areas. But if you're a hunter setting up with a bow, you can place yourselves in a pretty good strategic location to enhance your chances of catching one of those bucks slipping by.
Now, a lot of people would look at this and they say, "Oh, this is the most beautiful woods I've ever seen. Why would you cut any of this?" It's not about just creating an opening. This, even though we have tons of acorn trees, oaks, white oaks, red oaks, that only lasts a little while. These openings are actually going to be more beneficial to more wildlife.
That's right. So in addition to the benefits that deer hunters and deer in particular are going to gain from having these areas, wild turkeys are going to have increased nesting cover, and in the first early years are going to have more available brooding cover to increase the survival of those chicks. Species like rabbits that don't have anywhere to live up here right now you can hold quite a few rabbits in a 5 to 10 acre cut. And then one group of species that often gets left out when you're talking about timber harvest are reptiles, particularly fence lizards and anoles. The year after a timber sale, when you've got all that down woody debris, the lizard population goes through the roof. And then you have all sorts of bugs and things that are occupying that dead and dying wood that feed a ton of other animals. Combine that with all the new, fresh, young vegetation that's much higher in quality than just the woody browse that's already existing, feeding lactating does that are taking care of fawns in the summer, bucks that are growing antlers to increase that nutrition available for them. Not only do you increase the quality of the nutrition for the existing animals, you increase the overall quantity of nutrition on the property, which enables your property to produce and hold more animals. So it really is going to enhance the diversity, but also the abundance of wildlife on the WMA, because we're diversifying the plant communities that are existing here.
Stephen, you recognize the issue. The hunters were talking to you.
Yeah.
What do you plan on doing with these openings? Are you going to manage these openings or let them grow up?
Our plan is to let them regenerate, new growth, provide that early successional habitat is perfect for bedding, cover. As Jordan mentioned, brood cover for turkeys, bedding and hiding for deer, turkeys, rabbits, everything. So for these cuts, we plan to just let them regenerate themselves. We might burn some.
So that's a good point. Once the timber's been harvested and things begin to regenerate, you usually have about 7 to 8 years before the quality of nutrition in particular begins to decline for deer, because the young trees that are growing back within 6 to 8 years, they're getting tall enough that their canopies are above where a deer can reach. They're beginning to provide shade, which results in a similar situation to what we already have. So ideally, we will be able to work together at least on a few of these to come in and use prescribed fire to set it back and increase the amount of herbaceous growth in addition to the woody growth in the recently harvested areas, and then obviously extend the period that those are highly desirable areas for deer to bed or to have fawns or turkeys to nest and raise broods.
And in the long run, we hope to maybe on a 5-10 year rotation, maybe cut a few more 5-6 acre clearings.
So you plan on to keep going?
That's my goal. We hope.
Well, if we get the response we want with the increased cover, you start seeing more hunter success, I don't think you'll even have to bring it up.
Right.
I think the folks that are hunting will say, man, this is really enhancing our hunter success, our ability to see more deer and kill more deer, and it'll speak for itself.
And again, because these hardwoods are so mature, they're very old, mature timber.
And there's no reason to feel bad about cutting trees on a wildlife management area. Not only are you increasing habitat quality, but every tree that's harvested off of our area gets used in some way, whether that be for furniture, flooring, building materials, paper, personal hygiene products like toilet paper.
That's important nowadays.
It's important, very important. Think about all the folks that were diving around Walmart about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, these woods are valuable in more ways than one, and they're a sustainable, renewable resource. They're going to grow back, and we're not cutting the whole place. We're just poking some holes in it to increase habitat quality, and there's no reason to apologize for actively managing an area for wildlife.
That's what we've got going on down here at Flintville Hatchery. The Flintville WMA is 750 acres. It's a bow hunter's dream for deer. Of course, they have small game hunting, they've got turkey hunting, and it's right down here, right between Winchester and Fayetteville, and hopefully we'll be able to show you some more future stories about this WMA and how this habitat management has progressed.
You can just picture, big thicket, grown up here, bedding cover. There's another oak flat just on the next ridge, and a food plot right here that should be in wheat or clover, turnips. Be deer paradise.